Well, hey Ceramics 1 students, it's Miss New here, and it's day 2 of our clay creature project or our clay monster project. Let's go ahead and take a look at what I made yesterday in class and see how these are doing. Now, I started with 2 clay creatures. You guys are only required to make 1, but just for demo purposes, I made 2 different ones. Now, I still need to slip and score this guy together. And I would have to work on that. But today I want to talk a little bit about adding texture to these. So let's talk a little bit about some texture tools that we have available in class. There is a whole set of these little metal stamps that have different tips on them. And these work very, very well for adding texture to small projects like your creature. A loop tool also works really well. It has a loop on one or both sides, and this can work well for adding a texture. Heck, I can even use a fork to add a texture. That would be useful. And then there are some fun tools like, do you guys know what this is? We're gonna find out in a minute. So let's go back to my little creature here. I feel like he needs a name. I'm gonna call him Fred. Fred, he's Freddy the Frog. He kind of has frog vibes to me. So let's go back to Fred. Now his whole backside is looking pretty good. I would wanna make sure there's no cracks, that he's nice and smooth. And I do want to add some texture. So what could I do to Fred? Maybe I get in here with one of these little stamps and I just carefully go in and do some stamping. Now we do pressing in of texture on day 2 for a reason, because our clay is a little bit more set up. See that texture that's making? Or what's called leather hard. So leather hard clay, here's my loop tool. Let's see what that will do. It might make some scales on Fred the frog. Leather hard clay is clay that's in between plastic or very wet clay and bone dry clay, which is going to be even too hard to work with. Leather hard means that you've made a shape and that shape is hung out in a bag and it's a little bit more stiff. It's a little bit more set up. It's a little bit more leather hard. Look at these scales, you guys. I love this little pressed in texture. Now, pressing in texture is really going to take your project to the next level. It's really going to add some interest. And if there are areas where you don't want texture, well, guess what? A wet paintbrush is your friend for smoothing things out. Remember, we're looking for good craftsmanship here. We're looking for something that looks like you spent some time on it. You care about it. Remember, ceramics is forever. We put this in the kiln, we heat it to a high temperature, and it lives on this planet for the next 1,000 years or more. So it's really important that we are intentional with our craftsmanship. I'm going to go back to this one and just review with you. Remember what we have to do. We have to score crosshatch to get our eyes on there. I also am going to put the mouth on there, so I'm going to go ahead and score that area. So craftsmanship is important, you guys. It's one of our studio habits of mind, right? It's one of our learning targets for this class, is that you're using excellent craftsmanship and that you're learning as you go, and that for each project you make, that craftsmanship gets even better and better. And we take our time, we don't rush things. So this project should take you, I would say, 2 class periods of studio time. And again, if you finish one and you feel like, what's the next step, y'all? Some slip. If you finish one creature and you feel like, Miss New, I think it's looking good, show it to me, let me check it, show it to a neighbor. Do they have any suggestions for you? And if everybody says, yeah, I think it's good, it's looking done, then it's going to go on the greenware shelf. And guess what? You can start another one. So maybe you made one that's the cup shape, like this one I'm working on now. And so maybe your second one is a different design. Maybe it's upside down. Maybe it has a different look to it. Maybe it's your creature's bestie. So it's always okay to, if you are a person who finishes early, to go ahead and make a second project that's, again, especially with these smaller projects that we're just starting out with. I'm going to go ahead and push these teeth down a little bit if I can. They're a little long, but that's okay. So yeah, just make sure that you are, you know, really challenging yourself. Maybe the first one you made was a little too easy. Maybe you want to try one that's a little bit more tricky. Maybe you want to go online and look up some visual research and type in pinch pot creatures or clay monsters, or look at James DeRosso's work, or any other, you know, things that might come up for you in your visual research, and get some ideas and do a little copycat clay. Maybe try to find a picture you like, and can you emulate that? All right, since I got these pieces on here, I'm going to go ahead and, again, I think pupils are important. Oh, it's kind of wet because I just went in there with the wet paintbrush. Let's give him some pupils. And but craftsmanship is really important to me, and it should be important to you, because you want this to be something that, you know, you're proud to share it with your friends and family. Hey, look what I made. Look at my little creature. Isn't he cool? All right, so I got that one all together. Let's do some more texturing. Let's say on this one, I want it to have some hair. You guys know what this tool is for yet? It's a very fancy tool called a garlic press. Okay, I'm going to take a little chunk of clay. You remember this from when you were little and you played with like the Play-Doh Fun Factory. Remember all the different Play-Doh tools, you guys? It's a similar thing. Ah, look at all that hair. Now here's a trick with the hair. Take your needle tool, gather it all together, pinch it into a little blob to kind of keep all those crazy hair pieces together. But maybe this one needs, I don't know, a ponytail on the side or something, or some different texture. Maybe it's a fish. This actually looks like it could be a little fish part here. Again, I need to slip and score that on there, but isn't that fun? Now, if you use the garlic press, chances are some of these little pieces will break off. That's why you kind of have to push them together a little bit, and then go ahead and slip and score them on there. Let's give them some hair on the other side just to balance it out. But just to review, these little metal stamps, great texture tool. You could try a fork. What would a fork do? Maybe I want to go in and, you know, just make some stripes. Maybe this one's going to be like a Beetlejuice thing. Black and white stripes remind me of Beetlejuice. There's some fork texture. I could draw things on there with a needle tool. I'm going to go back to my other fish. My fish needs another side. Now, if you use the garlic press, I am going to ask that you clean it out when you're done. So here's my second fin, I guess, fish fin. Pull that together. But I am going to ask that you spend a little time and clean out the garlic press if you use it, because we don't want a bunch of clay in there for the next person. Oops, I'm losing teeth. All right, now I would probably put a little slip and score in there, but just for the sake of the demo, let me kind of blend those in. Right. Now this guy's pretty soft, really, but let's go back to this. It's easy to clean out, you guys. Just get as much of that clay out as you can. All right, and then any of this extra clay can go back in your clay bag, and then put it over for the next person to use. But maybe use a needle tool and try to clean it out if you can, all right? Also take it to the sink, use a little scrubby brush, and clean that out. So let's say I'm done. I'm done with these. I feel like they've got great craftsmanship. They're looking good. They have some added pieces. They have some texture. They have a personality. There's one step that you cannot forget, you guys, and that is to carve your name underneath. Someplace on the bottom of your project, I want you to write your first name, your last initial, at least. If you can fit your first and last name on there, I'm also going to put the period. So I'm going to put a number 1 because I'm period 1. If you do not have a name on these, I will not fire them. So let me say that again. If I do not see a name on here, I will not fire them, because there is too much waste where people make things, I fire them, and once they're fired, we can't recycle the clay. And that clay goes in the garbage if you don't care about it enough to glaze it. I'm not going to fire it unless it has a name so that I know who this goes back to if for some reason you forget to pick it up. Now, other thing is, if let's say you drop the class or your schedule changes, if I get this fired for you, I will make sure you get it. okay? But it has to have your name on it. So as I'm loading the bisque firings, I will be looking for names. And if it doesn't have a name, it will sit on the greenware shelf and it will not be fired until I know whose project it is. So if you take nothing else away from this video, first name, last initial, your period number, and then what I can do is just move these over to the greenware shelf. I can leave them right on this board if I want to, if things are really fragile, or I can take them off the board and leave them on the rack. Now, if I wasn't done, they would go back in the bag. I can always work on them another day. But if I do feel like that they're done, I'm going to go ahead and put them on the greenware shelf. You guys, I'm so excited to see what you make. Please let me know what questions you have. Hopefully this makes sense to you and you are excited to get going on these creatures. So let's go ahead and get started today. I'll see you later. Bye.